I can tell you right now, you won't find a bigger SEC homer than Uncle Lou. I absolutely love the SEC. I think it's the best conference in all of college football. I mean, I'm SEC all the way through and through. I'm such an SEC homer. I even root for Florida in non-conference games. And I'm a Georgia fan. So you won't find a bigger SEC homer than me. But this idea that's popped up a few days ago, I guess from some interview that Pale Finebaum did on ESPN Radio, that the SEC might decide to just have its own playoff at the end of the season, its own postseason tournament. This is a terrible idea. This is terrible for me, for college football fans. I think it's bad for the SEC. It's bad for college football in general. Now, I'm upset too that they can't get their ducks in a row with whatever playoff expansion they are or aren't going to do. You know, they did this big 2-year study and they had all these meetings and they appointed all these committees and they came out and told us, oh, we've agreed in principle, we're going to go to 12 teams. This is how it's going to work. Some people liked it, some people didn't. Even a lot of the people that didn't like it initially, some of them sort of started to warm up to the idea. And now that gets yanked out from under us. Now they come out a couple of days ago and they say, no expansion. We're going to keep what we have till the end of the current contract, which runs through the end of the 2025 season. So we've got at least 4 more seasons of just a 4-team playoff, 22, 23, 24, and 25. Now, regardless of whose fault it is or whose fault you think it is that we're not getting playoff expansion sooner than that, and a lot of people are pointing at the ACC, which I have my own separate thoughts on that. I'm of the opinion that the ACC is kind of holding Notre Dame at gunpoint. Like, we're not going to expand the playoffs unless Notre Dame joins the ACC full time. And I almost don't really blame them for doing that. The ACC needs to force Notre Dame's hand when it comes to joining the ACC. But that's really not what this video is about. But so the point is, it doesn't matter who you think is to blame for the fact that we're going to be stuck with the 4-team playoff through the end of 2025. The point is that we're stuck. But I don't think that's any reason for Greg Sankey. Greg Sankey, and again, Greg Sankey is regarded as probably the smartest, best, and brightest commissioner in all of college football, and he's done some great things for the SEC, but he's not perfect. And, some of the comments that he made about, basically saying at this point the SEC might just decide to not go along with anything anybody else does after the 2025 season. Basically alluding to the fact that the SEC could decide to just do its own thing at the end of the season. We don't need the ACC commissioner or the Big Ten or the group of 5 people or anything to all agree on what we're going to do. We'll just do whatever the hell we want to do at the end of the season and everybody else can go kick rocks. I think that's a terrible idea. If he's doing it for negotiating purposes, I still think it's a terrible idea. I don't think threatening basically to form your own bubble and just distance yourself from every other college football team is the right way to go. One of the reasons fans of SEC teams are so proud of the fact that their team is in the SEC is because we think it's the best conference. Well, there's a lot of different ways you can judge that, right? Talent on the field, how many players get drafted, things like that. But one of the biggest and best ways to compare conferences, or for us SEC people to beat our chest about how we're the best conference, is what? To play teams from other conferences, whether that's during the regular season, the postseason, bowl games, whatever the case may be. And nothing is worth bragging about more than winning a college football playoff involving teams from the other conferences. Now, you take this year, you had 2 teams from the SEC, but still you had an SEC team beat Cincinnati. You had an SEC team beat the Big Ten, the best team in the Big Ten, or beat Michigan, the best team in the Big Ten. You bragging rights from that. If you expand to 12, if you're an SEC fan, if you expand to 12, well, you're probably going to get 3 or 4 SEC teams in every year, and that's going to give you 3 or 4 opportunities to brag about how you beat some podunk team from another conference. This idea that, look, there's a difference between, knowing you're the best conference, and I think Greg Sankey knows that right now the SEC is the pinnacle of college football. There's a difference between knowing that and going around and shoving that in people's face and using it to basically threaten the rest of the college football world, do what we want, or we're just going to pretend you don't exist, which is basically what this idea would accomplish. The SEC having its own postseason tournament, screw everybody else in the Big Ten, the ACC, the Pac-12, the Big 12, the Group of Five. Basically just a fuck y'all. We don't, you do you. I'm gonna do me. You do you. That kind of attitude, I just don't think is a good one to have, and I hope that that's not realistically anywhere in the plans or potential plans in Greg Sankey's mind. Because I just think that's a terrible idea. Yes, Georgia is my favorite team. Yes, I love the the SEC. The ACC. What's not to love? Yes, I love the SEC. But deep down, I'm a college football fan. Okay? I love watching Notre Dame play Southern Cal. I love watching Texas play Oklahoma. I love watching Michigan play Ohio State. I love the fact that this year Georgia's playing Oregon in the regular season. Texas is playing Alabama. Texas A&M is playing Miami. Ohio State is playing Notre Dame. It's not like I just watch the SEC. I watch. Listen, from Saturdays from the end of August to the middle of January, I spend 13, 14 hours a day in this room watching college football. I've got 3 TVs and 2 computer monitors. I can watch 5 games at a time. It's not like I only watch the SEC. It's possible to think that the SEC is the best conference and still enjoy the rest of college football. And the idea that the SEC is going to hold itself up as high and mighty to the point of threatening to basically just distance itself from the rest of college football, I think is a terrible idea. I don't support it at all. I hope this is an idea that doesn't go anywhere. I almost wish Greg Sankey would come out and say, "No, this is ridiculous. We're not going to have our own postseason tournament. We're going to continue to participate in the postseason with the other conferences," because that's what people want to see. That's what I want to see. That's what you want to see. That's what college football deserves. This idea is just completely ridiculous, and leave it to our good buddy Pine Phone Pal to get this thing started. Now he's trying to pass it off on Greg Sankey, basically saying that's what Greg Sankey basically is threatening to do that. But no one listens to Greg Sankey interviews. Okay, people do listen to Finebaum interviews. Yeah.